To be in the front page of Time magazine, it could be considered for most people an honor. But what about if the Time gives you a picture of you that it is not the exact picture of what you are? What if the magazine portrays you in a way that is completely different of what you could be and what you could mean with your work? So in that case, probably to be in Time magazine, it is not pleasant. Today, I've just read an article written by Time magazine about Javier Milei, the president of Argentina. And as I said at the beginning, for most people, for most politicians, to be on that important magazine, it's a matter of honor. But the problem is, and the problem starts to origin when the descriptions made on Time magazine are not, in my opinion, completely accurate. In this video, we will analyze how Time magazine portrays Mr. Milei and why, in my opinion, Time magazine is completely wrong with its analysis. First of all, Mr. Milei, in order to understand the situation, you have to frame how Mr. Milei became president of Argentina, what was the economical situation that he found when he took power last December. Well, first of all, Argentina had been, a little bit more than 100 years ago, one of the richest countries on earth. Actually, it has been for a few years the richest one. And then, little by little, it turned to be one of the poorest. But why it happened? Why such a rich nation became so poor? Well, the explanation is very easy, because of the social communist idea. But at the beginning, there weren't social communists. At the beginning, actually, there were fascist idea. The Peronism, the political force that took power, in the particular case of Juan Domingo Perón, he was an admirer of Mussolini. So, in the first years of Peronism, there were a lot of similarities between the Italian fascism and the Peronism in Argentina. Actually, Argentina had been also the place that hosted a lot of Nazis running from Germany. Just to give a little note about what is the country. So, the Peronism, little by little, evolved, morphed into a socialist form of government. And most of the years after Juan Domingo Perón took power, Argentina has been ruled by socialists and also by military dictators. It was the military junta. So there were not only socialists, but also it was, we could say for a few years, regime, a right-wing authoritarian regime. But it's important to notice that the economical disaster came especially for the Peronists. And how you can say how a country could turn from the richest one on earth, a one, to the poorest one? Well, there were several factors. The first factors, it is proven that the socialist idea, the only thing that they have achieved throughout the world is to impoverish the society where they are applied. The first example is what happened in the Soviet Union. This is absolutely the first example. But then, in Argentina, you have a little complication. An extreme corrupt socialist government that these corrupt government ruled for many years. So you have the inefficiency of a socialist regime plus a series of extreme corrupt governments. Together, they brought Argentina from one of the first place to one of the last places. So this is the little explanation. It surprised me that Time magazine didn't portray well how was the situation that Milei received once he took power. Because this situation could explain some of the actions that Milei is taking in order to fix the problem, in order to have the job done, let's say. But, for example, it talked about that right now Milei has 300% of inflation. Yeah, but it didn't talk about that the week he inherited the administration of the country, the inflation was at 15,000, for example. These are the facts that the Time magazine didn't talk about. And then it focused on the eccentricity of Milei in order to portray him in a diminished way, in order to portray him like a bizarre guy, a little bit crazy maybe, and not in a strong president as it is. I'm not saying strong because he's an authoritarian, quite the opposite. Strong because he is very well prepared, he's an economist, a liberal, the first liberal probably, that, or one of the first liberals, true liberals, not in the American way, that is, the liberals in the United States or England are intended as the socialist one. No, liberal as libertarian. So, it portrays him like a sort of, a little bit bizarre, a little bit of strange guy, maybe from extreme right. So it talks also the aspect of the cliché of the extreme right. Well, I think that once again, Time magazine is wrong, because Milei doesn't represent the extreme right. To be a liberal libertarian doesn't mean that you are extreme right. Actually, extreme rightists are exactly the opposite. He's a conservative too, yes, it could be considered on the spectrum a right-wing guy, but not an extreme right-wing guy. This is another mistake that I have read in the article. But then I saw also how his sister is portrayed. Karina Milei, also his sister, has been portrayed in a diminished way. And I think, if you want to make an analysis of a new president, even if your political idea maybe are not the one of that president, you should try to be the most, let's say, not to take too much part to the other side, to the opposite side of the person that you are portraying. And then it talk about also of the vice president, Mrs. Villarruel. And they describe Mrs. Villarruel like a person that comes from a military family, so extreme right-wing too. So the whole article of Time, it seems that it has been dictated by the Peronist, by the one that brought Argentina to the economical disaster. It doesn't seem, the people that wrote the article, somebody that take an objective point of view on what they are talking about. At the opposite, it seems that they gave or outsourced the writing of this article to the Argentinian opposition. In that way, a magazine, even if it's a left-wing magazine, we could say that it's not the work that it has done, it is not objective at all. So, when I read it, I was a little surprised, to be honest. And I expected, honestly, a little bit more, or much more from Time magazine. I always had in my mind, highly regarded this magazine. But after reading that, the surprise was quite big. And the last thing that I would like to talk about is, yesterday or a couple of days ago, Milei presented his book in the Luna Park. It's a huge place for events in Buenos Aires. The place was crowded of people. It means that the Argentinian people are loving his president and they are supporting his president. At the same time, I remember when I read the news about the Luna Park presentation, I had also, at the opposite, the news about a big strike that protest against Milei. And also this time, the Time magazine forget to talk about or to go a little bit deeper on what are the unions in Argentina. They are highly political and they worry more about their leaders than the people that they should protect. In the United States also there is a long history about unions. In Argentina, maybe there is something similar, maybe, just maybe. But a good journalist would have checked very well what are the union in Argentina, what are the piqueteros in Argentina. Piqueteros are people that block roads in order to cause problems not only to the government, but especially to the working people, to the middle and low class people, etc. So finally, my final considerations are few. First, the article, in my opinion, it is not accurate. It is from just the orientation of the writers are left-wing or maybe extreme left-wing political orientation, and then it omits essential facts about Argentina that should have been written on. So, why? The main question that we have to ask to ourselves, why? Maybe the left-wing elites are worried of a libertarian ruling for the first time a country. Maybe they are worried about the achievement that he can get with this way of working. I don't know. With this ideology, I don't know. What do you think about that? What do you think about Time Magazine? And if you have read the article, what do you think about this article? Let me know in the comment, please.